Well, we're back on this Parker leaf blower. As you can see, I've got the new coil. I put it on and still nothing there with spark anyways. So we went and ordered a coil. Just got a whole tune-up kit. I got the points, spring and all that good stuff. That's the only thing I can guess is wrong with it. I mean, it doesn't, there's only a few issues it can be. It's either that coil or it's just condenser. So I get the parts out, bring you along, show you, put all this stuff together, gap it. Oh, by the way, the tank's all done. Put the gas cap on it, and I've got my sending unit. I just put it in. So, and it's painted. It's the final look at it there. So, stay tuned and I'll bring you along. I'll show you some more. This is the little chute on the side. And you can kind of move your little chutes up and down there. A handle, this little lever right here that you can do that with, and that is how you direct the airflow. There's the name of it right there. So anyway, we'll get back with you when I get my parts in here. Then we'll be able to get this thing running, hopefully. Well, we're back on the Parker leaf blower, and today I got my parts in for the points and condenser. And so we're going to take and put these parts together. As you can see, there's the condenser, and I believe this is the culprit, and then the rest is your points. And this little gizmo here is kind of a neat little plastic gizmo. This is what helps put the, you put a little spring over this thing, because if you can see in there, there's a hole. And that's where the wires go, and then there's a spring that slides over the top of that that pushes up on those wires to keep the wires in place. Well, anyway, to push the wire down, or the spring down, you push this down, and then you can see there's enough room in there to put the wires through, and then you release it, and then the spring goes up there and keeps it in place. So what we're going to do is put all this on and replace this. There's the condenser, the points, and the spring. And this little spring up here, these are the wires I was talking about. So let me get at it and I'll bring you back. Well, the first thing we're going to do is take off the condenser, and you see there's a little bolt there with a 1/4 inch drive socket. Well, it's a 1/4 inch drive socket, but a 1/4 inch socket. And you just take loose this little clamp that holds your condenser in place, and I'll show you what that little plastic gizmo does for you. Get these wires off. And there's your condenser, but you see the wires are fastened on there. So you take this little plastic thing and you locate where your hole's at, and I've got my helper coming up here. And you push down on that spring, and you can see how easily those wires come right out of that condenser. It's just pretty handy. So I'll put on the new condenser and a new spring here. Guess they didn't give me a new spring, so I used the old spring. It's odd. Anyway, here's the new spring and my wire. And now we're going to take the other wire. We're going to put both of those in there. This wire comes off of the coil, and then this wire goes down over here to your shutoff, so that when you push your throttle lever all the way forward, it shuts the engine off. And that's what this is, this wire here. So you gotta have both of these in here. So what we're going to try to do is to hold this down and put those wires in that hole, and hopefully it won't be that difficult. This takes a little bit of finagling. Probably should, there we go. Straighten the wires out a little bit more, it probably would help. Get that in that hole, and then you release that, and there, it's captured. So there's the coil, or not the coil, the condenser, and it's ready to be mounted. Now we're going to take off the points. We're going to replace those since I bought the complete kit. Again, it's a 1/4 inch bolt, 1/4 inch head, and pull that out. As you can see, there is a little spring there, and then you have this little spacer. And then on top, there's a little deal here, if you can see it, that goes up and down off of a lobe on this crankshaft. And that goes up and down like that to keep your, to do your points. So, oh, there's the other spring. Okay. Well, we got an extra one now. So here's the new points, the spring. What we're going to do is get that bolt, run through there, there's a slot in this spacer that these points go into. You got to get that slot located. It's kind of tricky, and at the same time you got to get this spring on. So we'll get that spring mounted up like that, and we'll pull this thing up into place. So, like I said, it takes a little maneuvering to do, but to do that, tighten this bolt up. Hopefully, everything will stay in place. You can see that just pivots on, there's a groove in that little spacer. Get that closer for you, see if I can do that with it. There's a groove in there, see that? And that's what these points set in, like that. And then the bottom of this, well, this is the bottom, I guess. It rests on that little plunger. Not in the, sorry, I'm not into, it's hard to do this. And you do that, and that puts your points into place. And as you can see, now we've got the points being able to move freely up and down. So get this good and tight. You have to be careful, that's all aluminum, you don't want to over tighten it. Now we got your condenser that we will put into place here. And these wires have to be tucked out of the way. So let's just wrap those around this condenser. That. And there's a slot right up here at the top that these wires run through. And what we will do when we get everything adjusted in place, we will take and put some silicone in there so that that seals this whole compartment up. So now I need to put this bracket, and there is a goes in just like that. So what we do is we'll just snug this down because we got to set the points, or the gap. And the gap is adjusted with this condenser. Don't want those wires touching that set of points. So that touches the gap on the points there. So now what we've got to do is set the gap, and the gap is set at 20 thousandths. Let me get a feeler gauges. So the feeler gauges, I don't have those feeler gauges that have got the bent end on them. They're just straight, but you can see, maybe you can see, hit my head on that, 0.20, that is the gap that we need. And what you need to do is to set this in here, and we need to make sure that that is in the right spot. I failed to do that at the beginning, so let me see if I can spin this thing over. It's going down, it's going up. All right. So now, we take and put this in here, and ever so gently, oop, too much. Push that coil up until it, you get the correct gap without pushing the points up. So, got just a little bit too loose. Oops, it's too much, I think. Yep. See if I can get this in here. I'll put those feeler gauges in, and then I'll push the points down, and should set that condenser. Sometimes you can take like a little screwdriver, just push up on that condenser. Doesn't take much. I don't have it completely tightened down, but that's pretty good right there. So what we're going to do, snug up the bolt, and you're done. So, like I said, we'll put some silicone in there, but before we do anything, I'm going to put the flywheel back on and spin this over to make sure I've got I get spark. That's the whole problem, and I believe this condenser was the issue. Thought it was the coil, but I believe it's the condenser. So I hope my hands weren't all in the way there so you could see what I was doing. There's other videos on YouTube about this, but anyway, just thought I'd show you that. Okay, I'm going to back this out a little bit here. I'm putting everything back together. I just threw the flywheel on and we did get spark. So back in business again. So what I have used is a little bit of RTV silicone. I put a dab of it right up here. You can see it. And I put the 3 screws or bolts in place there, screws I guess you call them. And we'll just tighten these up. And that'll seal this alt up. And then these wires have got some little clips that, if you can see them, they're little U-clips. And up underneath here, there's some places to put these clips to keep these wires from getting caught into the flywheel. And that is something that's essential because you don't want that flywheel to catch these wires because it'll rip them right out of wherever they're hooked to. And you definitely don't want to rip it out of that coil. And so what we're going to do is tuck them up underneath here. I know you can't see this, but there's 2 of these clips. So we're going to put one up in there to kind of hold these in place. And then we'll get the other one. And we're going to put it in there. Take a little screwdriver and push them in. That, and then there's another one laying around here somewhere. There it is. And this one goes up higher. So let me get this one in place and put that flywheel back on. And I'll show you how that flywheel goes on. And, I mean, it's all pretty basic. If you've ever worked on one of these before, you know what is what. This is an old engine. This is a 1975. There. 1975 Briggs and Stratton 8-horse engine. So it's a little bit different than the newer ones. Now, I did find out after I purchased this coil that this coil here, you can't see it. That bar's in the way, and let me lower this down just a smidgen. Don't know if I can lower that or not. So that bar's not in the way for you. I guess I can't. Okay. Well, anyway. Back you out just a little bit more and you'll be able to see. There we go. See the coil? They've got a coil that replaces this one. It's called a magnetron coil. And that coil will take the place of this one, and it also takes the place of the points and condenser. So, instead of me purchasing the stock coil and then having to get points and condenser, I could have just got a magnetron coil and done away with everything else and been good to go. That's the new modern electronic ignition. And all your newer engines have got that. They just have this coil, and it does the job of what the old one did with the points and condenser. So move this wire out of the way here. Now, flywheel goes on, and there's a key. my gap up here, I didn't move this when I took the flywheel off. So my gap should have stayed the same, but I'll show you how to do that. And the key goes right in here. And so what I've got to do is try to get this key in there. And you just kind of slide it up into place and then force it down in there like that. And then you've got a washer that goes over that, and it's a spring washer. This washer has got a, you probably can't see it in the video or the picture there, but it's concave like this. And so it's like a spring, and so when you put pressure against the front of it, it flattens it and it gives it pressure to hold it, whatever you screw on it, which is this gizmo. And this is your part for your starter. And this thing moves. There's little ball bearings down in the bottom of it here. And there's a hole in the end where you can put grease in it. Or not grease, but oil. And you put real lightweight oil. Don't put anything heavy. You want those balls to be able to move in there, those bearings. And then it locks. You see how it locks? And, but anyway, you put this on. There's a little thing in there that you got to get in the right spot. You spin it on and tighten that up, and I'll show you how to tighten that up. You got to get a screwdriver. You got to be careful with this because you don't want, these are aluminum, these tabs. And you probably can't see that. Yeah, you can see that. These tabs. That's where I'll show you what screws onto that. But anyway, just take a hammer and you hit that a few times to tighten that, and then that will secure it. Because as you pull on your recoil, it turns it, and it's just tightening it every time you pull on the recoil. So, and then after you put that on, you've got this screen. And this screen is more like, I don't know what it's for exactly, but it's goes on, and there's 4 little screws that hold that on. And so we'll get it put together. Yep, it was a hot day today. Got into the upper 80s on October 1st. It's a lot. Our average high right now is 69 degrees. So anyway, we'll tighten these little screws up. This will secure this screen. And then we can put on the recoil and the case cover. Now you notice these fins, they're cooling. That is to cool this engine down. It draws in air and it spins it up and it shoots air across these fins up here in the cylinder and the head. And so you got to have this thing on there in order to cool your engine. But now everything is looking good. We'll put this on last. That's your shutoff wire. Again, you want to make sure that it is well away from your flywheel. You definitely don't want to catch that on your flywheel because it will rip it out in a heartbeat. And that's no good. So now we take this. Still recording? Yep. And you'll slide this. You got to get, there's a slot up here at the top. You can't see that, can you? Back that off a little bit more. There's a slot up at the top here that this ignition wire's got to go in. And then when you put this on, sometimes you have to pull on the recoil to get that thing to spin and to get it to connect on that recoil gizmo there that we put on. So now it's just a matter of buttoning this up with 4 different bolts, and I'll do that off camera, and then we'll see if this thing will start. Well, she's all together. I did get it started. Let me see if I can get it to start again. It's very awkward to pull it up on. I got it up on some sawhorses right now. It's pretty loud. And there's a lot of wind coming out the chute here, so I've been trying to adjust the fuel screw at the bottom here, and it just quit, but I think it ran out of fuel. So let me see if I can get it started.